about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
All right, we are back on Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Dahlia, 1-877-DOCDALI. So I don't get really too emotional, especially with a bunch of the stuff on the internet. But this one video I thought was pretty cool. And it kind of highlights the messaging that I think the media should be giving a nod in terms of parents can teach their kids right from wrong. So basically, there's a bunch of kids. They look like they're grade school level playing basketball. And there's one kid that's like a head and shoulder size above the rest. It looks like he could be a lineman. Right? And it looks pretty athletic. He's playing basketball. And then there's a little kid wearing glasses who doesn't seem to be as athletically inclined. And you see them trying to make a basket, and the basket is way up there, so these kids are missing it. But this big kid can make a basket. And he decides, while everybody's trying to block and whatever, he decides to basically keep everybody back and let this little kid go and make the basket without any interference. The kids let this little one do it. And you see how excited he is, and he runs across. It's on my Twitter. I wish I could say which school. And you see this little kid just like, and mommy's probably, the mom is probably just losing her mind. Dad's like, yeah, it's my boy. And he's so happy. And you look back, and I guess the caption, this was posted by Interesting Things, said, in a world where you can be anything, be a number 50. And 50 is the big boy that allowed the little one to score. And, when you look at that, I'm like, I wonder what upbringing that number 50, that big boy got. Was it you need to help others? Is it that he has little brothers, little sisters? And his parents are like, if you mess with them or if you don't help them out, you're going to get a butt whooping. What was the upbringing? But you see, even with all the kids, and they were in shirts and skins, although they don't do shirts and skins anymore. Now you have to wear shirts, so you wear the vest over it. Especially with girls, they don't let you do skins anymore. But anyway, when I was little, I was like, I don't care. I didn't have boobies at the time. I didn't care. Once you got boobies, you're like, oh yeah, never mind. I'll wear the top. But it shows that apparently either it was a coach, the parents, hit home with these kids to let somebody else, have a shot, make a basket. I understand we want to teach competition. I get that. But I mean, we're talking about grade school basketball. There's a time for competition. There's time for, let's be humanistic. And so there's a lot of debate over these parents getting arrested when their kids do school shootings. And, people will bring up the argument, well, look at Rob Reiner's kid. Rob Reiner tried to get the kid help. He still ends up murdering them. So, the choices, I know it's very difficult if you are raising somebody that has severe mental illness. But if you just take away all the noise and you look at the choices, all right? One is the parents need to be more hands-on and they need to be involved. And they need to remember to teach and train their kids. For those kids where they have such severe mental illness where you just can't get through to them, you get them help. So either you raise your kids and train them right, or if you can't, you go and get help. Now, I know it's difficult raising somebody who could have, psychosis or oppositional defiant or antisocial behavior properties or, but your two choices are pretty clear. And I don't see a lot of parents doing the first choice where they have a child that actually isn't uncontrollable. And they don't necessarily teach them right from wrong. Why? Because I see parents who are jerks. And I told you I was seeing a patient. This was even before the time when the patient told me that I was a blinking bitch. But there was a mom who I guess wanted a medicine. And the type of medicines she was on, it interacted. So the software won't allow us to write medicines that have major drug interactions. So I explained to her that, look, I know you're asking for this, specific medicine. We can't with your medication. Yeah. So she has her daughter call, and the daughter is like 15, 16, and the mom's there. And the daughter asked for the same medicine, but the daughter's also on, I believe, an antipsychotic and an antidepressant that it interacts with. And so when I explained to the daughter decides to just rip me a new one. Now we're talking like a 15-year-old. And now, like, if this is in person, I'm like, okay, baby girl, really? Okay, you wanna tone that down just a little bit, take it down a little notch. I mean, but over the phone, they're big, macho people, right? So she's yelling at me, and I'm thinking, okay, is the mom going to intervene? No, the mom's like, go get her. Yeah. All right. Okay, you have a child that is disrespecting somebody else, whether it's another child, whether it's an adult, whether it's a doctor. The doctor's explaining, and this is how you're training your child to act. And I see this a lot. I'll also see on some of the video consults where the child is sitting there with the parent, and the parent is asking the child to convey something to me, and they're like, I don't want to talk. Can you please convey to the doctor what's going on? She can't. She doesn't look like she knows what she's doing. Okay, so if I said that, and I do not condone the type of punishments many of us grew up with, but I mean, there is no way in hell my parents would allow me to talk to somebody else like that, let alone them. And I'm seeing such a hands off. You have a child. Yeah, I get teenagers are grumpy and they're obstinate and they're more confrontational, but you have a child who has a healthy psyche. You work with them. You teach them right from wrong. But instead, they're looking at these adults who are mistreating. Maybe they think they could bond. Maybe parents think that they're not bonding with their kid when they say, don't do that, don't do that. Like, I know when I tell my kids, you got to tip better than that. You got to tip good. Mom, I don't understand. It's already expensive. And now you want me to tip on top of that another $20 or $30? Yes, you tip good. They don't like me that much when I kind of am on them. But if I say, oh yeah, that food service sucked, we shouldn't have given it, then they'll bond with me. No. You could teach your kids right from wrong. And if you can't, you get help. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799 and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
Hi guys, Dr. Dahlia here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms. Whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping, addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdahlia.com. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
And we're back on the Dr. Dolly Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOC-DALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer. And big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So if I was a TSA worker and I was going through this shutdown and not getting paid, as much as I would probably say, look, I'll make do. We'll go into our savings. I want to be there for people. I think the fastest way to end this partial shutdown is for TSA agents to say, you know what, I've had enough. Let the airports close. It is so dangerous what's happening right now, where you have a lot of call outs. You have many of these TSA agents going, I'm quitting. I can't do this. I got to support my family. And what is the government sticking? What is this about? Why aren't they just funding a clean bill to just extend the funding? What? Has to do with masks. We're back to masks. Not COVID masks, but apparently there is a debate on whether ICE agents should wear masks or not. Now, I have flights coming up, but honestly, for this shutdown to end, close the airports. And small airports are about to close. You cannot force somebody to work unpaid. Even if they are gung-ho and they are saying, the stress is causing them to not be at 100%. There's no way. They are at 100% when they have their families going, what are we going to do? What's going on here? And apparently there's no end in sight. We're being told that the Democrats do not want to budge on ICE agents. So apparently some of the sticking points. Let me review which agencies are closed down. SNAP benefits, thank God. When we went through this other BS earlier in the fall, luckily Congress said, no, this isn't going to happen. We're going to make sure that, we're going to make sure that nobody can screw with the SNAP benefits again and all that. But what was let loose in order to get SNAP benefits and Medicaid funding and everything else through was the following: Departments of Transportation, Housing and Urban Development, Defense, Homeland Security, Labor, Health and Human Services, Treasury, the Executive Office of the President, State Judiciary, District of Columbia. But Congress, they still get paid. Congress will still get paid. Really? Really? The Interior, Agriculture, Commerce, Veterans Affairs, Energy, Justice, NASA, Agriculture, Interior. So are right now in the midst of everything that's going on with Iran, in the midst of us still having wolves in sheep's clothing that got across the border, we are not funding our DHS. That's disgusting, and it puts us really, really in a bad spot. Now, the Democrats playing devil's advocate in their defense. They feel like they don't have a voice after losing the election. And they don't want to wait till the midterms, which is predicted that they will be able to get a majority, at least in the House. And so they're thinking that, well, for the time being, because we got the midterms coming, I need to show that I did something as it pertained to ICE. You're screwing everybody else over. And when people say, yeah, but it's the Republicans causing this, everybody's going to blame the Republicans for the shutdown. They're not, because the Republicans are like, we're trying to pass the funding. Who keeps saying no? And why are they saying no? And what's this mask issue? So apparently, as ICE is trying to now deport and get rid of Tren de Aragua and other cartel members, that puts them in extremely dangerous positions. And sadly, the last few years, Biden really dropped the ball. That never should have happened. I don't blame Kamala, believe it or not. I know, Kamala Harris was the border czar. I've worked in places where they give you something to do, but then they don't let you do it. They have your hands tied and you're like, but you said I'm in charge of this and now you're not letting me do what I need to. Not that I'm saying Kamala would have really gone down there. As I've said before, if you made me border czar, if I had been a part of the Biden administration, they say, Dahlia, you get down there. I'd be on a plane that afternoon or that hour. I'd get down there. I would meet with everybody, customs, border crossing, everything, and say, guys, give me a list. What do you need? I'm going to get you everything on that list. Well, if the Biden administration's like, no, we're just kind of doing this, for the optics. Oh, I would be ticked. And I would get on camera and I would say, hey, and my job wouldn't last long, but I'd say, hey, guys, they made me border czar. This is what we need to do because we're not vetting people. There's tuberculosis and infectious disease coming across in some individuals, and these people are getting trafficked and hurt. And the people in the illegal immigration line are getting kind of ticked off, right? Somebody takes cuts in front of you at the DMV, you're pretty pissed. These people are getting ticked. We got to get these people to to take their turn, get back in line and take their turn. And so this is what I want. There's no way. So I give Kamala Harris a mulligan with that, because even if she did want to do that, there's no way, I don't think the Biden administration, whoever was running the Biden administration, would let her do that. So, we're in this now precarious position where you have individuals, and I'm not saying everybody that snuck across the border or got through, are criminals, but you had a lot of wolves in sheep's clothing. And now we're not funding. Now we're not. This is kind of dangerous. Not to mention we have sleeper cells who have gotten the code to go and do what they want in America. This is dangerous. This is stupid. If I was with the TSA, what I would with the TSA is, if you're not getting funded, day one, we're not funded. So the airport's closed. One day of the airport's closing, we're talking all airports closing. One day of that, trust me, the Democrats will sign and get the bill passed. I'm telling you right now, but we're like trying to make things work, and they know that nobody wants to tick off American Airlines, or although Frontier Airlines just ticked off some of their passengers. Apparently there was a group who didn't get through the lines quick enough, so they didn't check in within that hour. I don't know why they didn't check in online, but they didn't make it. So then Frontier wouldn't let them on the flight. And then they charged them to get another flight. And they're like, but look, the lines are ridiculous. It's lack of staffing. It's a mess. But I got to tell you, one day of the airport saying we're closed, trust me, every constituent would tell their congressperson, no, we're not going through this again. Just sign the damn bill. You funded TSA before. You funded the Department of Homeland Security. Why? Because you want people to not have masks and get doxxed and have their families slaughtered by cartel members at a later date? No. I'm not buying this. Now, mind you, if you disagree with how ICE works, there's other ways to express that. And like I said, there's a very good chance that the House is going to be in Democratic control. So this can be addressed very easily, in the near future. But to leave us so vulnerable right now, it's ridiculous. And to make people work for free. I mean, we're being told that a good number of our TSA agents said to hell with this, and that they've quit. We're in day 31 of this partial government shutdown. 50,000 TSA agents are working without pay. 10% of them said, I'm done. And they didn't come to work on Sunday. So what I would do is, forcing people to, work without pay, or not just TSA should say, guys, this has gone on for 31 days. No, it's not healthy. It's not safe. We're going to we'll come back to work when the shutdown's over. And I'm telling you right now, the bill's going to get passed today. So that's what I would recommend, guys, because you shouldn't have to do this. There's so many ways to reevaluate what you want ICE to do, although we shouldn't be in this position now. And I mean, we're being told that the mass mess up that happened over the last few years as it pertained to the border. And I get many people like, but Dahlia, those are extra votes. It's going to help the Democrats. I don't care about that. That's not how you do things. I care about the legal immigrants that are trying to get through the process the normal way, and them getting cut. And like I said, if you ever have sat in a DMV, you know exactly what it feels like when you see somebody try and take cuts and you see them run up to the front of the line, and you're like, come on, man, I've been sitting here for 2-3 hours. No. And what happens when that person tries to sneak in? Security comes. And if that person doesn't go to the back of the line and take a number, security ejects them. I mean, that's just how things have been done. Why? Because the people in line are going to get mad. They're going to get pretty ticked off. For those of you, and we got spring break travel, and like I said, I got travel coming up in the next few months. This can be solved today. Just TSA agents, I don't blame you. Take the day off, and let's get this shutdown ended. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away.
Looking for a gift that can actually help secure someone's future? It's Mark Falter's new book, Common Sense Income Strategies. It makes the perfect gift for that special someone in your life. Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using time-tested strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. To learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Secure your future with Common Sense Income Strategies by Mark Falter. Again, to learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635.
And we are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOC-DALI. So there is an unprecedented outbreak of meningitis that is in Great Britain. And 2 people have died from that. Meningitis, we've talked about on the show. That is some scary stuff. Meningitis is inflammation of the spinal cord and the brain and the meninges, the lining of it. And it can be deadly. Signs and symptoms of meningitis is having a really bad headache, neck pain, back pain, fever. Your neck gets very stiff. You can't look at the light. Light bothers your eyes. And I could diagnose meningitis from the parking lot because the patient won't want to get out of the car. So when my nurse says, your next patient says they can't get out of the car, their neck is too stiff. And I asked, did they pull it? Anything mechanical? Nope, but they were feeling sick. I'm like, you know what? Tell them to just drive them straight to the ER. That's meningitis. Now, I get some of us wake up with a stiff neck, but I'm talking about where you don't even want the wind to change direction and blow a couple strands of your hair, north or south. That's how bad the neck and head pain is because it's inflamed. And so meningitis, we protect against with a lot of vaccines. We have vaccines that protect us from childhood meningitis and then college-age meningitis, but it can still happen. And I don't know if Great Britain vaccinates to the degree that we do. We know we know we are the more robust, vaccination-friendly country, and many other countries don't vaccinate to the same degree that we do, which is why RFK Jr. is relooking at, and the ACIP panel is looking at what we're recommending, and if we're giving too many vaccines or looking at the safety profiles. But in Great Britain, they say 2 people have now died out of this meningitis outbreak, and at least 15 have been infected. Now, some of you are like, okay, they're making it sound like thousands. Well, meningitis is so contagious that this is a concerning number. The outbreak has prompted the UK Health Security Agency to begin contact tracing, distribute antibiotics, and start a targeted vaccination program in the area, according to New York Times. Now, they believe this started at the University of Kent. All in-person exams have been canceled. According to Wes Streeting, Britain's health secretary, this is an unprecedented outbreak. It is also a rapidly developing situation. So the first case was reported to the health authorities where they believe it started at a nightclub in Canterbury. Yeah, like Canterbury Tales. Yeah, Canterbury. And this nightclub is pretty popular with the students. Now, health officials are asking if anybody was at the club March 5th, 6th, or 7th to come forward and receive antibiotics. Now, meningococcal disease can be caused by bacteria, but meningitis can also be caused by a virus. At least with bacterial meningitis, we could treat it with antibiotics. With viral meningitis, it's a little tricky. However, with meningitis, not only can it affect the brain and spinal cord, but it could also go into the bloodstream and cause sepsis. 1 in 20 people who get this meningococcal disease will die, according to the Oxford Vaccine Group. And if you survive it, 20% of you will have neurological deficits and long-term effects. You could have seizures, hearing loss. So the one of the students at the University of Kent died after contracting it. There was an 18-year-old. Actually, and then another student. Sorry, one was at the University of Kent. Another one was a high school student. I believe in the UK you could drink when you're 18, so it's not uncommon for 18-year-olds to be at the club or the pubs. And then authorities in France have also reported a case in that country by a person who attended the University of Kent. And then another 2 cases identified in local high schools. At least 700 doses of antibiotics have been administered. And that's something we do. If we do think that somebody has been exposed, they will give you preventative antibiotics. I can't promise you'll get those through telemedicine. Usually they'll have you go in and get seen in person. But if you do have a family member or friend who did get exposed, they're going to tell you to watch for headache, neck pain, nuchal rigidity, photophobia, which is where you can't tolerate the lights, and any sort of other fever symptoms. It's not fun. Investigators have identified some of the cases were Group B. It's a strain of meningococcal disease. They say Britain's National Health Service began in 2015 to offer vaccinations to babies for that strain. But before 2015, not a lot of babies were getting vaccinated for it like they were in America. And so depending on the age group, depending on like H. flu, Haemophilus influenza, it's not a flu. It's a bacteria that could cause meningitis in kids. There's also strep, sort of meningitis, Neisseria meningitis in the older population. So depending on your age, different bacteria can affect you more. And when you're college age and you're close to each other and it's... I think in America, I know in America, if your child is going away to college, most colleges mandate that they got the meningitis vaccine, the adult meningitis vaccine, because they know that kids in college are going to party, be close together, and they don't want an outbreak. And I remember my kids are going, another vaccine. I'm like, yep, guys, you got to get this done. And they did. So let me shut my volume off. I apologize here. So, as I've said, any fever, headaches, photophobia, rash can also be a symptom too. And hopefully they'll be able to get control of this. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So, you're going to see this headline and go, okay, that's common sense. But apparently it's not common sense because you have people fighting RFK Jr. on this. But we have another study saying that your ultra-processed foods that you're eating is linking you to heart attack and stroke and cardiac arrest. It's another study, and I guess people are like, well, I want to see the evidence. RFK Jr. is not using evidence-based medicine. Well, here we are in JACC Advances. They say each additional daily serving of ultra-processed food is increasing your risk of heart disease, stroke, and cardiac arrest, which I do believe happens with heart disease. And they say 9 servings of ultra-processed food each day massively increases your risk. Now, for those of you going, oh, no, I don't eat 9 servings. Yeah, you probably do. You probably do. If you eat a bowl of sugary cereal, and then at work you might grab a donut or a snack, and then at lunch you eat a burger, which counts as 2 servings. And then your French fries, if it's the extra large French fries, another 2. And then if you order a pizza for dinner, or you're eating a frozen food meal, and then having potato chips and French onion dip with it, you've definitely hit the 9 servings. Easy. Each additional serving of salty, fatty, or sugary food each day raises the risk of life-threatening conditions by 5%, according to the American College of Cardiology. People in the study had been eating this way for more than a decade. The data collected between 2000 and 2012. So an 8-ounce bag of Lay's, like a serving of Lay's potato chips, is 15 chips. Now, for those of you saying, I eat 15 chips in a handful, you're in trouble. A serving of Chips Ahoy cookies is 3 cookies. So you see how easy it is for you to come up with that 9 a day. That's bad. And so they say Americans get nearly 2/3 of their daily diet from ultra-processed foods. And that is also putting you at risk for stroke, heart disease, cancer, depression, and premature death. People who get most of their daily calories from this have a 47% higher risk of cardiovascular disease. That's why we're overweight. When you look at pictures of us in the 60s and 70s at the beach, we were skinnier. Why? Because we didn't always eat out. We made a sandwich. We would eat of fruit. We would bring our teacher an apple. Now people are bringing their teachers either nothing or little gummy candy. 1-877 Doc Dolly, don't go away.
Hey guys, it's Clyde. You know, we've had a lot of requests for Ground Zero merchandise, so we put together an online store with a big variety of high-quality items. I'm really excited to let you know about these things. We have a lot to offer you and your loved ones. In addition to our regular apparel, such as t-shirts, beanies, hoodies, and hats, we've expanded our product line with posters, flags, aprons, mugs, and a whole lot more. We also have Ground Zero collectibles, along with a limited edition of items like a Clyde Lewis canvas portrait, a Ground Zero embroidered jacket that will certainly make for great gifts and for interesting conversations with family and friends. And we now offer publications such as Ron Patton's book about mind control, MK Zine, and back copies of the official magazine of Ground Zero while it was in print. Paranoia, the Conspiracy Reader, also coming in 2023, are updated and revised books that I've written. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. So shop today at our official store by going to groundzeromerch.com. Again, that's groundzeromerch.com.
Hi, everybody. It's Dr. Dahlia. As many of you know, I lost another colleague to suicide. And tragically, tens of thousands of Americans, including hundreds of physicians, take their lives each year. Why is suicide so common? Why doctors? Even medical students have alarming suicide rates. Nurse burnout is at an all-time high. Maybe it's the monstrous workloads we face every day. Maybe it's because of burnout, malpractice suits, online reviews. Medicine has changed so rapidly that it's almost unrecognizable to those of us who entered this field and wanted to take it by storm. But there's not a lot of resources out there for healthcare providers who deny that they are struggling or at risk. So my book, The Depressed Doctor, aims to change that for both the physician and medical student and anyone else who is struggling. Find The Depressed Doctor on Amazon or at drdahlia.com. And if you are currently struggling, call or text 988, the National Suicide Prevention and Crisis Hotline. Don't wait. The silence is killing us. Show 1-877 Doc Dolly, 1-877 DOCDALI. So my kids didn't like me that much growing up. Not because I was mean, rarely spanked them, but because being a doctor mom, I'm like, okay, we got to check you out. You need to do a blood test. You need to do this. And the reason why is there was a recommendation years ago to do a baseline cholesterol screening in your child if there's a family history of high cholesterol. Well, everybody and their mother has high cholesterol. I don't, but in my family, and a lot of people's families, cholesterol is high. So I made the kids get a blood test. And Mom, you suck. No, I don't want a blood test. Dad, Mom wants us to do a blood test. Huh? What? What's going on here? What do they need? They need to do a blood test. Okay, listen to your mother. So my kids weren't happy with that. Now they are. Because when we tested their blood, their cholesterol was mildly high. even the bad cholesterol, the LDL. And I got on them and I said, we got to stop the French fries, the chicken nuggets, the tacos, the this, just, mom's not fun. Why did you have to be a doctor? I go, listen, right? I don't want you having high cholesterol later. And recently we checked their blood work and their cholesterol, both of them fine. Also, they're at the gym, they're working out. Oh, I got on their asses. There's no way I want them to have the same fate as my father had, having a heart attack in his 60s. The men in my family don't live that long. Now, the men blame the women in the family, but I think it's because of cardiovascular disease and cancer. So we have new clinical guidelines for cholesterol, and it looks like they did bring back, you know what? Yes, or they're reinforcing. You got to check your kids, especially if there's a family history. So let me review some of these guidelines for cholesterol. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, what's RFK Jr. doing now? This isn't RFK Jr., this is the American Heart Association. All right, so for those people that want to rip on everything RFK Jr. does, okay, this is a medical society, all right? This isn't Republican or Democrat. Everybody calm down. All right, geez. All right, and I agree with this. So, a big concern I've had with a lot of these medical groups is they're like, oh, we don't need to screen for prostate cancer that aggressively. We don't need to screen for thyroid cancer. We don't need to, screen men for osteoporosis like we do with women. I'm like, what the hell are you guys talking about? Men get, bone fracture, hip fractures too. What are you talking about? Well, we don't want to do too much. Meanwhile, you see the ACIP and then the Department of Health and Human Services going, well, let's kind of reevaluate what we're doing with vaccines to make sure we're not doing too much. And that's a problem. Okay, let's kind of be consistent. We always want to reevaluate and make sure we're doing the right thing and recommending the right vaccines and safe and best practices. That's kind of what we do in medicine. Right? Everybody needs to kind of take a chill pill, man. So their major focus is earlier intervention through healthy lifestyle changes starting in childhood. Thank you. Now, they want us to consider medication in younger individuals who have an LDL greater than 160. We want that LDL below 70 if you can. But if it's 160, that's a concern. Or if you have a strong family history of premature arteriosclerotic or plaquing of the arteries in your family. So I'm going to try and post this as long as there's no issues with copyright. I want to post this graphic. So they want screenings done, right? If you are over 2 years old, if the family history has premature cardiovascular disease, severe hypercholesterolemia, or a severe family history. The graphic's a little confusing. And then, so that's your 2-3-year-old. Remember I told you there was that recommendation to screen between 2 and 10 years old? I loved that recommendation. I know parents are like, I don't want my kid getting a blood test. Why the hell not? Why not? Well, my kid's going to be unhappy and it's a needle. They're getting tons of vaccines and needles through that. I love the hypocrisy when it comes to needles, where I've had so many patients who would not do a blood test going, I don't do needles, doctor, sorry. I'm afraid of needles, I don't do needles. And I'm seeing those same people on Ozempic now. I mean, really? I thought you didn't do needles. And I get it's not IV. I get it's subcutaneous, but still. Anyway, so for kids, they want the screening. If you got a severe family history or family history of arteriosclerosis at an early age, get them checked over age 2. Screen them between 9 and 11 to identify other lipid disorders if there is a family history. By the time people are 19 years old, they are recommending to check. They say screen lipids again at 19 years old, recheck at least every 5 years, and then use the Prevent ASCVD calculated risk score. We'll talk about that in a second. Now, you want to aim for a lower LDL. We want you under 100 to help prevent cardiovascular disease, but if your score is less than 10% on that calculator, the goal is to have you under 100 for your LDL. However, if your score is greater than 10% and you have a severe family history, we want that LDL under 70. If you have severe arteriosclerotic disease, they want that LDL under 55 milligrams per deciliter. And then we're going to treat you longer. We're going to check your lipids every 4 to 12 weeks after the start or change in dosing of your lipid-lowering therapy, then reevaluate you every 6 to 12 months. And that's what I've had been doing. That interestingly, people are like, gosh, look at these new guidelines. That's how I practiced for years because that's how I was taught. I was taught by cardiologists. So I would start you on a statin, like a Crestor or Lipitor or Zocor or whatever. And then I would check you within a month to make sure that your liver enzymes weren't, because it could affect your liver. Make sure your liver was tolerating well. Make sure you were already starting to show a sign that you were going in the right direction. And then I would recheck you at the 3-month mark. And then we would go another 3 months. And then if I thought you were stable and doing well, I would check you every 6 months. And I mean, we kept people. I only lost one patient to a heart attack. And it was one patient who didn't take the statin, didn't want to take the statin. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just saying these medicines work. But we need to be a little bit more aggressive in terms of screening and testing. And we got to get our kids looked at. If we don't, that's a problem. Trust me, your kids. So I learned in medical school that I forget if they were Vietnam or Korean vets. I thought at the time they were Vietnam, but I think the study is saying they might have even been World War II vets. But I remember learning that when they looked at these 18-year-olds who had died in war and they checked their coronary arteries, there was significant plaquing. Now, I know some of you will say, but Dr. Dahlia, I thought you said we ate healthier back then and we're eating ultra-processed foods more. We are eating more ultra-processed foods more, but also back then they smoked. You know, they might have eaten more chicken fat. I remember my grandmother, when she would cook a chicken, you had to eat everything off of that to fill you up. And so you had the meat, but then I guess you would fry the chicken fat, and then that would be your starch. And it was, so trust me, they did have bad eating habits. They just might not have necessarily eaten the ultra processed foods to the degree. But the fact that they found severe arteriosclerosis in 18-year-olds suggested that we shouldn't be waiting till somebody's 40 to screen. All right, that never made sense to me. And so thank God I was taught to start screening early, and we did. Did every parent want their child to have a blood test done? No. But those who did, it was surprising when we found that their cholesterol was high. This updated risk calculator is called pre-SCVD, or for arteriosclerotic cardiovascular disease. It uses a few different metrics, and then it calculates your risk of developing heart disease over the next 10 and 30 years. And it's designed for adults age 30 to 79. And so the guidelines suggest medicating you, as we said, depending on getting that LDL lower, depending on if your risk is less than 10%, or higher than 10%. If your risk is less than 10%, we want you under 100 with your LDL. If your risk is higher than 10%, we want your LDL under 70. And as I said, if your cardiovascular disease risk and family history is even higher than that, under 55. So if you have high cholesterol in the family, you might want to get your kids checked out. Talk to your kid's pediatrician or family doc about this, all right? The 1-877 Doc Dolly.
Looking for an easy read that can actually help secure someone's future? Pick up a copy of Mark Falter's book, Common Sense Income Strategies. For the past 30-plus years, Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. It's not rocket science, it's a pretty easy read. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. Common Sense Income Strategies is available now on Amazon or by calling 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Common Sense Income Strategies by financial fitness show host Mark Falter. Secure your financial future today.